To wrap it up for today, guys, please get a shot of Jason Romano for us on TV. So today is the last day, not only with us, but at ESPN for someone who's been here just about as long as we have. He is a person who has a great passion for sports, but he has an even greater passion for his faith, and he is following that
I'll tell you
his
what,
next professional endeavor.
Incredible person that can leave what he's done for so long because he feels he has another calling. So, Jason, tip of the cap to you. You've been a real asset to this company, no doubt about it.
We never really know what God's plan is in our life until we look back. We can say this is God's plan to go here, or this is God's plan to go there. I feel like I'm being called to do this, and I can say that too. I feel like I'm being called to do more for God. But it's not until we do it and we walk the walk and then we look back on our life and we say, oh my goodness, how perfect is that? I grew up in a small town outside of Albany, New York called Ravenna, and I always wanted to do sports of some sort. Loved playing it, loved watching it. Soon as I got to high school, I understood that you could actually do this as a career in broadcasting. So I became very interested in doing whatever I could to get a job in sports broadcasting. I wanted to be on the radio, I wanted to be on TV, I wanted to do sports, I wanted to be Howard Cosell. I wanted to be that guy. So I went to college specifically for that. And I learned as much as I could, did as much as I could. And then when I got out of college, I got my first job in local radio as a producer. And I quickly realized that my career path was probably not going to be on air. And then ESPN happened. I remember the very first day I walked into that building in Bristol, Connecticut, and I was the biggest kid in the biggest toy store, the biggest candy store you could ever imagine. Look at that's Dan Patrick, and that's Keith Olbermann, and that's Chris Berman. Look at Stuart Scott. Oh my gosh, look where I am. 3 days into my job at ESPN, the booker from Mike and Mike in the morning leaves. And they said, well, why don't you, would you want to take a crack at working on the morning show and booking guests for them? And I said, yeah, that'd be great. In 2009, we find out that Tony Dungy is coming to ESPN. Suddenly we start having conversations about faith. It wasn't just football or ESPN, it was about real life stuff. I said, I want to do more for God, but I just don't think I can do it here. I said, I'm at ESPN, I can't do anything for the Lord here. And Coach looks at me and he's like, you can be a light here in this place. And his assistant, Jessica, kind of jumps right in front of him. And she says something I'll never forget. And this was probably the turning point of my career at ESPN. She says, look at the mission field you have here in Bristol at ESPN. I said, mission field? She's like, yeah, look at all the different people that you can be a light to here. And she's like, if you don't get that, you're missing the whole idea of what it means to be a Christian. She said, God has you where you are for a purpose right now, right here. And until he calls you away, you are to bloom where you were planted. And I just got it. And I said, you're right. That's exactly what I'm supposed to be doing as long as I'm here.
The one thing I will say about him, of the many that you could, he is the one thing in life that we need more of. He is a genuinely nice person.
Yes, he is.
And he's done a great job for us over the years.
He's a good guy. He's done a great job for us. He will be missed.
I just knew God was calling me somewhere to do something more for him. That's all I knew. And then Sports Spectrum comes along, and the opportunity to build that brand up and to be a part of a podcast where we can tell the stories of sports and faith is kind of everything that I really thought I was supposed to be doing 8-9 years ago. So I said to them, I'm all in on this podcast. I will produce it for you. I will put it together. I will put a social media strategy together. I'll book all the guests for you. I said, this will be great. And they said, well, guess what else you're going to do? We want you to host it. And I said, host it? I said, I haven't been on air in 20 years. And we welcome Benjamin Watson, Baltimore Ravens tight end, to the Sports Spectrum podcast. Benjamin, how are you? It's been amazing to hear the stories that the people I've talked to have had to share. The first episode we did was with Marlins pitcher named Adam Conley, and the interview took us into those moments when their teammate, Jose Fernandez, was killed in a boating accident, tragically, in the middle of a season. And Adam Conley, this 24-year-old rookie, hears the story and recognizes in his strong faith that this is a moment to point people back to the Lord.
I don't know if I yelled it or what. I don't know what it sounded like coming out of my mouth, but I told every guy in that room that Jesus is the only way. We will all die, and Jesus is the only way to heaven, and that it's real, and that this is happening.
There are Hall of Famers and legends and people who have played in baseball circles and are the best that they've ever been, that are standing there listening to this 24-year-old rookie tell their entire team of who Jesus is. And so when I hear that story, it gives me goosebumps, because that's exactly what this podcast was created for. Stories are powerful. And if your story, my story, their story, his story can impact one person, not only for God, but can just give them a hope, give them a peace, give them a faith in something, and can encourage them, then man, we got to tell it. When I look back at my life, my career, my life with my family, everything, I see it and I just say, you know what? God is good. His plan is perfect. And all we have to do is just walk in that walk of faith and obedience. And it just takes us to places we could never have imagined. Man, it is great to have you here. I'm so blessed to have you, and this is going to be